Hello everyone, thank you for joining us for another Archives Live. I'm Bonnie Cain-Wood, and with me of course is David Peters, head of the OSU Archives. Last summer, we took you on a golf cart tour of campus. We began at Old Central and we explored a lot of the southern half of the main campus here in Stillwater. So today we are going to pick up where we left off last summer, right in front of the beautiful Edmund Lowe Library. Now, I'm going to be asking David a few questions along the way, and as always, we invite our live viewers to post their own questions. We're going to be looking at some relatively newer areas of campus, so I would love to hear what was new on campus when you were here. Please add your stories and any memories you might have to the comment section, and we will do our very best to share those on the live stream as we go. So, you ready, David?
Let's go.
Okay, let's roll.
We're also going to talk about some of the things that used to be at the different locations on campus too. And where we are right now, of course, is the center of campus, the OSU Edmund Lowe Library. But this used to be where the Agriculture Experiment Station was, so we know as agronomy farm out west of town. That used to be where we are right now.
All right.
There was a large barn, roughly where Whitehurst is, and this was the feedlot area in this area. To our right, we have the Student Union, which was the first air-conditioned building on campus. Especially meaningful on a day like today to know there was air conditioning. So it opened in about 1950. So it was very popular because of the air conditioning. Right next to it is the classroom building. It opened in 1952. It also was air conditioned, and of course then the Edmund Lowe Library was the third air conditioned building on campus. But they were very popular. You have to remember, the first 60 years of campus, there was no air conditioning on campus except for one location that I'll talk to about in a little bit when we get to that place. So there were also greenhouses, roughly where Engineering South is now, and there was an apiary and power plant where the classroom is now. And so the second power plant was where the west end of the classroom building is now, and then there was an apiary where they raised bees to provide honey for campus, used as a sweetener. So we're about to the well, a good spot here to our right again on this little corner by the parking lot by classroom building. Actually, if you go back to the left just a little bit in this lawn area, there used to be Home Economics, built in 1920, and that was known as Home Economics East when they built Home Economics West on the other end of the walk here, and then later became known as the Geography Building, but they were all located here. And for students from about 10 to 15 years ago, they may have remembered the Student Union temporarily moved large structures out here as they were doing renovations to the Union, and so that was located at this spot. Let's see what else.
So, and this area that we're driving down right now, this is again a relatively new area to campus, Legacy Walk. So this is just an extension of that library lower plaza connecting Monroe and Hester Street now. So a really beautiful kind of walking corridor here through campus.
It's the main east-west walking corridor to get across the center of campus. And so bikes and pedestrians both use this space. There's lovely plantings that have gone on both sides. And so it's going to be a very nice place. It already is a very nice place.
Yes.
And I think part of the walk that is designed for people around campus utilize this as a part of that.
The Pete's Walk. You look for the little Pete medallions on the sidewalk, and there's a great little walking trail you can take through the campus.
Where we are right now is where the Commandant's house was. In the past, all young men were a part of the military training program, the Cadet Corps. And so the Commandant's house was located right here on this side on the west side of Hester. Actually, it used to be the President's house, which was located where the Saratine Center is now. First occupied by the Experiment Station director, then occupied by later presidents, but then that house was moved here after they built a new President's house where Bennett Chapel is now. So the Commandant's house was here, and the Commandant played a very important role on campus. Now, across the street, on the east side, we have the wonderful new business building that houses the Spears School of Business. It was completed, I think the groundbreaking was in 2015. I think it was completed in 2018, so it took about 3 years. Fairly massive structure. The shape is described as a horseshoe.
I like to think of it as a horseshoe.
Well, it looks like a horseshoe to me if you look from above it looks like a horseshoe, but I believe they officially call it a crescent. The basement, which includes the whole this plaza area, that whole area underneath, plus underneath the structure, is built armory. And once they added armory to it, the military said, "Oh, that's required. Then we have that building training." So they got the steel. That was completed in 1919. But what happened, and we'll see here a little bit, the endeavor and architecture were built over what was the first Lewis Field. It went north and south, and it was this corner here of Athletic Avenue and Hester, and that's where the first, actually was called Lewis's Field, after Lowry Lehman Lewis. He helped students lay out the field, lay out the track, and then eventually it was shortened to Lewis Field. And then when they built the architecture building in 1919, they had to move the field, and that's when they realigned it, going east and west, and located where it is now. And now, of course, it's all a part of Boone Pickens Stadium. So
Fantastic.
So what we have here is Endeavor. Endeavor was completed also in 2018, so it and Spears were both completed this last year. It's got 72,000 square feet, and it has all kinds of spaces. We generically refer to them as maker spaces, but they can do almost anything here with design, with industrial projects, instrument testing. They have a thermal lab, energy systems, design suite, material sciences, processing and transport lab. It's quite the facility, and I know engineering is very proud of it. So that is Endeavor.
And it's a really neat building. The public can access some of the spaces. One of the things I think is really cool about it, though, so many of the student labs and classrooms are glass fronted, so as you walk through you can see some of the hands-on activities that our engineering students are getting to do for teaching.
They also encourage collaborative utilization of space. And of course, then we have Boone Pickens Stadium, the home of the Cowboys for football, and so it was built really over Lewis Field, the old original Lewis Field, but it's expanded dramatically through Boone Pickens' generosity and others. And so this is our home for the football team. And just north of here is the Sherman Smith practice facility, which was also added within the last 10, 15 years. So, and then if we keep swinging around, this is the power plant to the left a little bit. This is the power plant. Replaced the power plant when they tore the one down where the classroom building is now.
Yes.
When they tore it down, they completed this one. So this one started about 1950. And that's when they moved the power system over here. And then the newest power plant is just another block north of there. And so the infrastructure for our power system is all tied into these plants here. Let's see, as we swing around here, I kind of skipped over the Advanced Technology Research Center, which is to our left. We could stop here just a little bit. So to our left is Engineering North and the Advanced Technology Research Center. The Advanced Technology Research Center was built over what used to be the Industrial Arts Building. It was an old facility completed in the 1920s, I think 1928. So then Advanced Technology Center went in, and that replaced that facility. So it's also currently under some renovations. And then right in front of us is the Noble Research Center. Originally it was known as the 21st Century Center for Agriculture and Renewable Resources, and it has a storage in the past too. But it also houses the Pickens School of Geology. And so this was one of Mr. Pickens' first major contributions to campus, was to support the School of Geology, which I believe he was a graduate at Oklahoma State, so Oklahoma A&M. So yeah, the Research Center.
Now, if people are coming to campus in person, this is another building I think is a lot of fun to visit. There are several academic departments in here, including entomology.
Yes.
One of the really fun things about the entomology wing, though, is that they have a really large collection of entomology-themed student artwork related to one of the classes they teach. And so as you walk through, there are paintings and sculptures and all kinds of things, photography. It is a lot of fun.
Combination of insects and art.
Yes.
So yeah, so this is the Noble Research Center. and entomology also with plant pathology, and I can't remember the other department, but there's I think two other departments in there. Of course, the School of Geology is here, and then right in front of us is physical sciences, and then to our left is the north side of the library, but that's okay. But right where we are right now is the International Mall, and so during the year, oftentimes there are flags from various countries. We have a number of different countries that represent where our students are studying from, and so they route those through. They change those out so that every country has a chance to have its flag flown, along with the United States flag and the Oklahoma flag. So,
of course,
International Mall is very important because of our large international involvement, both our working overseas, but also inviting people to come here to expand their horizons, and then take that information back to their home countries. Hopefully others in the world will benefit from that. So, all right.
So if you are just now joining us, we are taking a driving tour of campus with OSU's campus historian, David Peters. If you have any questions or stories to share, we'd love it if you would place those in the comments section. We'll do our very best to read those on the live stream today and answer those questions.
The area we are right now, at one time was filled with Quonset huts after World War II.
So, David, for some members of our audience, what exactly is a Quonset hut?
A Quonset hut is a half circle, a half cylinder. It was had metal corrugated walls or ceilings. The walls turned into a ceiling. So it was just a half circle shape, and they went up very quickly. They were very temporary. You found them all over the United States in the 40s. They went up during the war, and then after the war they were repositioned elsewhere. And so we took a bunch of them here as we had the GI Bill and boom of students. We had to find places for classrooms, that kind of stuff. So now we're on the west side of the Noble Research Center. What was here years ago, it was built in the early 20s, was the old animal husbandry and livestock pavilion. So it was located at this end of Farm Road. And so we're going to talk really, and going forward, a lot about agriculture in this area. So the animal husbandry department was here with the large arena. It was one of the coolest places on campus, and literally cool. The doors, they had trees on both ends, east and west sides, and the breeze through there for some reason was a very comfortable place to sit, and you could go up into the arena and sit and stand. So that was at this spot until they built the Noble Research Center. Then on our left was now the Bellman Research Center, but for many old-timers and not so old-timers, the dairy building was located at this corner here of Farm Road and Monroe. It was built in 1928 and kind of anchored this corner for a long time, and they had a little cafe, I guess you might call it. And in the old days, you could get ice cream and cheese and milk, and they actually produced all those products that could be sold both on campus, and they provided a number to stores. You could buy A&M dairy milk and cheese and ice cream and stuff. So, but then the Bellman Research Center came in. It was completed in 2011. It has 124,000 square feet, so it's another large facility. Cost roughly $70 million. And here they have, these are mostly unavailable to the public, but they're doing critical research in synthetic chemistry, biodiversity, biophysics, photonics, bioforensics, and geophysics. So it's quite the facility. It has a very stable foundation. Some of the things that they do have to measure very minute changes, and so it has to be on a very stable structure. And so,
interesting.
Quite a facility here. And then across the street is Ag Hall. The first wing was built in 1957. Then they built the second wing a few years later, and then the front that we know as the front of the building was the last part to be completed, where they tied the two wings together. That's Ag Hall. Trying to think what else. To our right a little bit is the Kerr Food and Agriculture Project Center. This was completed in the 80s, and right behind it is the animal science department, which used to be animal husbandry, which used to be across the street. So it just moved across the street into its new facility when they tore down the old animal husbandry building. And now we're on Farm Road. And Farm Road got its name because it connected really the center north part of campus with the agricultural facilities that were in this area. And so
I think I always just assumed it was named after someone named Farm.
no, but it could have been. So on this side, where the Food and Agricultural Products Research Center is now, was a meat laboratory, and then just north of it was the beef barn. The beef barn was built over the foundation of the first dairy barn. The first dairy barn was built in 1912, and so it was just down the road here from what became the dairy building. But it was burned in a fire. It was one of our last wood frame barns, and it was destroyed by fire. So when they built the beef barn, in about 1925, on the old foundation, they built it out of brick. So the beef barn was there, and then just north of it was the swine barn. So that was on the north side of this part of Farm Road, and then on the south side of Farm Road, where we have Kerr Drummond now, was the second dairy building. So they learned their lessons. So the secondary building was a brick frame structure, and it was on the left side. And we're also entering an area after it was no longer used for barns. Was a very high density area for students coming here in the 1960s for the baby boom. And so we have our high-rise residence halls going up. We have Kerr Drummond, you have Iva, Scott Parker Wentz, Wilhelm North and South, and so these were major residential halls built in the 60s to house a dramatic increase in the student population during the baby boom.
So David, looks like we have a comment here from Maisie. She says, husband and I were at OSU 70 to 78. I majored in business education and he in meat science. My first job was admin to the Dean of Library. Love OSU. Thanks for that, Maisie. Thanks for sharing.
Appreciate that.
So David, if she was in the dean's office in the 70s, who was our dean in the 70s? Was it Roscoe?
Would have been Roscoe Rouse, would have been dean at that time. Roscoe came and replaced Edmund Lowe.
Fantastic,
so,
yes.
Okay, now on our left, this used to be a large parking area between the high-rise residence halls, Kerr Drummond and Wilhelm North and South, but now we have more apartment style and suite style housing. Students no longer want to share a small living space with others, and they don't have to share a restroom either, a bathroom. And so now we've converted a number of these spaces to more apartment style and suites. Also, we've had to make adjustments. Beginning in the 60s was the first time we really created large parking lots around residence halls. But before that, many students didn't bring a car to campus, so our parking lots really didn't develop until the 60s and continue now. I've always considered parking as a consideration whenever we build any new facility. So let's see. Then on our right is Iba Hall. Now, when it was built in the mid 60s, it was the first hall designated for athletics, and so it was all male at the time, and so all OSU athletes stayed in Iba Hall. Initially the athletic dorm, it wasn't named for Iba until years later, and they arranged the floors. I think the top floor was the football team, and the third floor was like half football, part basketball, but they had, when really the teams kind of grouped together on the floors, but that gave them a chance all to live at one spot. And then to our right still is where the Coleman Center, named for Valerie Colvin, who was early advocate of physical education. And so it was built in the late 60s, and this was funded in part by student fees. Students agreed to pay so much per credit hour to help support the bonds that were issued to build the building. It's undergone some major renovations since its original construction, but it's still a wonderful facility, and it's open to students and others. So on our right then is where Wilhelm North and South used to be, which has now been replaced by apartment style housing.
The Coleman Center has just some really amazing facilities in there. There's a rock climbing wall, and we've got indoor and outdoor swimming pools, an indoor jogging track. Lots of space for fitness classes. I believe they have spin classes, Zumba, all kinds of things. It's great, and that is available not just for our students, but our staff and faculty can utilize that as well.
Yes, they can. And the outdoor pool, when I was here years and decades ago, it was just a big square kind of pool with a diving area, and now it's got all kinds of
it is very fun.
It's an amazing place. So it'd be wonderful on a place like today.
It would. We'll just swing by on our way when we're done. Take a dip in the pool.
So remember, all of this originally was all part of the Agriculture Experiment Station. This was all farmland. So all of this has been developed. And most of this, this is what I call the post-Bennett era, which is after Bennett's presidency ended in about 1951. But by the 1960s, we're getting into the post-Bennett era, which is a lot of auxiliary services. We're thinking more and more about student housing, student recreation, student activities, athletic facilities expand dramatically beginning in the 60s and 70s. And so our auxiliary services become much more in demand, and we spend more of our investment on those events and activities, facilities. So, the old tennis courts, this is where the tennis teams used to play before their new Mike and Ann Greenwood Tennis Center, which is north on Washington Street. But this is where the tennis teams used to play, and you can still practice and play here. This is the Coleman Annex that went up in the 70s. This is that half, it's got the Quonset hut shape, but it's not a Quonset hut. It's much larger than a Quonset hut. But it's also been refurbished and reconditioned. And it's in pretty good shape, really, for as old as the building is. But it's also an additional basketball courts, racquetball courts. And so, and oftentimes they open up these side doors. And I think you worked there for a while, so.
Now, David, you told me the other day a great story about a renovation to the Coleman Center Annex. Tell us a little bit about that.
So, these posts, these beams that are curved to support the structure, there was some rot occurring in some of them, and at one point they thought maybe they would have to tear down the building, but I believe it was a graduate student in engineering working with a faculty member. They'd figured out a way of more or less doing x-rays of those to determine where the rot was, and then created some kind of resin that they could inject into those to stabilize those areas. And so what they did is by really patching and repairing. So what do we have here? So now we're going cross country.
Heading over to the intramural fields,
yes.
Right?
So we have expansive intramural fields because we have a number of intramural activities that students can engage in, both males and females and co-ed, and so
students as well as staff and faculty. Right now, the library has the champion intramural softball team for staff and faculty,
of which we're proud.
Yes.
But you can play volleyball. There's all kinds of things. And during the summers, they really do a lot of maintenance and recovery work because they are used heavily in the fall and spring. So summers is kind of recovery time for this area, but we have a large expanse of ground that's available for intramurals. And where we're approaching now is what was the original northwest corner of campus. Hall of Fame used to be known as McGeorge, and McGeorge Avenue was the north boundary of campus. And so campus was bounded by Knobloch on the east, what we call University now on the south, this McGeorge on the north. And so McGeorge is now Hall of Fame, and so this is the original northwest corner of campus. The first 200 acres ended right here. So everything that's built north of here and west of here was all added after that date.
Fantastic. We've got a story here from Jeff. He says he used to take the football team during 2A days to the Coleman Pool to cool off during the 80s.
So we have apartment style housing. We have the home of the Cowgirl soccer team back to the east. That's where the old track used to be. The Cade Road track was there. Now it's been moved north as a part of the new academic facilities north of the stadium. But that's where the track was, and that's where the current soccer stadium is. It's had considerable renovations in the last few years too. And we're proud of our soccer team. So, yeah, and then more apartment style housing. originally, the first things to be completed out here was Vet Village. After World War II, we had veterans returning under the GI Bill. Many of these were older students. Many of them had families, they had spouses and children. And so we brought in temporary buildings. Some of them were Quonset, some of them were called Redwoods, which were 16 by 16 feet. They were very small, but you could live there. But Vet Village had its own mayor. There were several thousands of people who lived in Vet Village. They had their own newspaper and governing structure. They had their own little community center. It was really kind of a community unto itself. And many of them had shared the common bond of having served their nation during World War II. Many of them had young families. There were 3 or 4 nurseries out at Vet Village. It was quite a place. Many of the early homes, you had to share a bathroom, so there may have been like 4 or 5 Quonsets, and you have to travel outside to use the bathroom or restroom. But it was quite the home for many people. And many people, even though it was very rustic and kind of primitive, still think of those days fondly, especially people who were born or raised in Vet Village in the 40s and 50s.
That's fantastic. So David, one last question before we go. So between last year's tour and today, we have seen a lot of campus, but there is so much more. What else could some of our viewers see if they came to visit Stillwater in person?
Well, there's a lot of places we missed west of Monroe, near University, just north of University. But then if we took Washington Street north, we'd see many of the athletic facilities that are going up. And right now, the baseball stadium is nearing completion. I mean, I'm not sure. I think hopefully by next season it'll be ready. But it's a fabulous facility. It's just north of the Mike and Ann Greenwood Tennis Center. But they went up north on Washington Street. There's a lot of activity going on there with athletic facilities. There's always construction and things going on campus as we continue to expand our capabilities. And I'd also encourage them if they have any questions, just contact us and we can show them new places they might want to explore.
Wonderful. Well, if our viewers would like to double back and catch that first half of the tour that we did last year, we will link that in the comments of this video. David, thank you for another great campus tour. Of course, we'd like to shout out our appreciation to our friends at the OSU Foundation for helping us out with our golf cart today. And thanks to my crew behind the scenes, Nina Thornton, our multimedia producer, Adam Stroud, who volunteered to be our driver today, and of course William Davis, who is back at our headquarters helping monitor and answer questions online. And of course, a big thank you to all of our viewers for asking questions and joining in the conversation in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that heart button, share it with your friends. We have more photos and posts on our Facebook page, and you'll find all of our archives videos on our OkState TV and YouTube. We'll link those as well. Thanks again to everyone for watching, and we will see you next month on Archives Live.